This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, Rabbi Isai, Bruchim Abayim. Welcome to the Koilel Agra de Pirka National Monday Afternoon Shiur. Welcome everybody. We have an amazing topic today. Before we begin, we want to tell everybody of a new learning venue. We have a new shiur, a weekly shiur being offered that's called Torah Illuminated, which is a Dvar Torah, but the Marmakoimos and the personalities that we discuss are brought to life with a visual presentation. You could join the group. You could go to our site, rabbidg.com, and sign up for the WhatsApp group, and you'll see every week we have a very beautiful video Divrei Torah presentation. Okay, Parshas Chayei Sarah. Parshas Chayei Sarah opens up where Avraham Avinu turns to the Bnei Ches, and he wants to speak to Ephron, and he wants to buy a plot of land to be able to bury Sarah. And it's interesting, and the Mefarshim point out, and this is cited by the Gra, that 7 times in the Parsha we have the expression Kevuras Hames. The Gra says we have Ve'ekbira es meisi milafanai, Kivar es meisacha, mi kivar meisacha, Likbar es meisi, Kivar meisacha, Ve'ekbira es meisi, ve'es meischa kivar. And the Kadmonim hone in on this double expression. Why 7 times a lashon of Kavar Meisecha? It would have been sufficient, let's say, 3 or 4 of them. And furthermore, why is it that the first 6 times, first it says Kavar, Kavura, and then Mes, and in the 7th time it says Ve'es Meischa Kavar? And the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, said as follows. We know that when Avram wanted to bury Sarah, Yimeinu in the Meoras Hamachpelah, there was already a couple who were buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. And if that's the case, we need to bury another 3 pairs: Abraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. That is who is alluded to in the 6 additional times, Kavar Meisecha, Kavar Meisecha, Kavar Meisecha, Keneged, the 6 tzaddikim who are ultimately going to be buried over there. So that is an amazing remez. We know Rashi tells us the reason why it's called Kiryas Arba is because there are 4 couples who will be buried there: Adam and Chava, Avraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. But 2 are already buried. So therefore, when Avram is coming to purchase the spot, he needs to get 6 spots. So he says, Kavar Meisecha 6 times. But we also know the Gemara in Saita says that when the Bnei Yaakov came to the Meoras Hamachpelah to bury their father, who reared his ugly head? Esav came to say, it's mine. Until a man by the name of Chushim ben Dan came, and he knocked off Esav's head, and his head went rolling down into the Meoras Hamachpelah. So there's a 7th person buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. Now we also know from Chazal that Rishaim are called dead when they're alive, but Tzaddikim, even when they're dead, they're called alive. And the Gemara asks, what do you mean Tzaddikim are called dead even when they're alive? What do you mean even tzaddikim are called alive even when they're dead? But the pasuk says, "V'aksiv ki afarat ve'alafar tashuv," that tzaddikim die. So the Gemara says that means when they're dead, they're called dead. Says the Gemara, they only die 1 moment before Tchias HaMesim. So tzaddikim, when they're not alive, they're alive. Tzaddikim, when they're dead, they're alive. But a minute before resurrection, they die so Hashem could resurrect them. So we see that tzaddikim are buried before they die. Because tzaddikim don't really die. Tzaddikim are buried. They don't really die. They only die a minute before Tchias HaMesim. So therefore, says the Gra, the first 6 times that are a reference to Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak, Rivka, Yaakov, and Leah, it says Kavar Meisacha because they're tzaddikim. Tzaddikim are considered alive even before they die. Their kavura comes first. They only die a minute before resurrection. So therefore it says Kvar Meisacha. But the 7th and final time, when it's referring to Esav, who his head is buried in the Hamachpelah, who by the wicked, their death precedes their kvura, because they're dead even when they're alive. Even b'chayim, they're called mesim. Therefore, it says misa before the kvura. So, right off the bat, we see that the Meoras Hamachpelah is a very special place. You have over there, besides Adam and Chava, you have Avraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. And I was just remembering, last year I had the zechus this time to be at the Meoras Hamachpelah. And some suggest that the Ramban is buried there at the foot of the Meoras Hamachpelah. There's even a matzeva for the Ramban at the entranceway, off to the side by the wall that's perpendicular to the entrance. You have a matzeva for the Ramban, based on the fact that the Ramban writes that he wanted to go to Hebron and to dig a burial spot for himself. And it struck me that of the significance of the fact that the Ramban is buried at the Meoras Hamachpelah, in light of the fact that the Ramban, throughout Sefer Bereshis, probably the predominant theme in the writings of the Ramban is the concept of Masei Avos Simin Labanim. The actions of our forefathers are a portent to their children. How often the Ramban invokes that concept. The Ramban talks about it in his Hakdama to Shemais, that Bereshis is Sefer HaYetzirah, because the actions of the Avos created the future history and destiny of the Jewish people. The Ramban talks about it in connection to Avraham going down to Mitzrayim and Avraham leaving Eretz Yisrael, and the digging of the wells of Yitzchak Avinu and the beginning of Vayishlach and in Vayechi. The Ramban quite often invokes the concept of Masei Avos Simin Laban. This is one of the major offerings of the Ramban, and therefore there's no coincidence that the Ramban is buried right next to the Avos HaKadoshim. But be it as it may, we're about to discover that there might be more going on in the Meoras Hamachpelah than meets the eye. There's an ancient sefer called Sefer Kushiyos, and there he brings down that when Avram Avinu brought Yitzchak his son to makriv him on the Mizbeach, and Hashem sent an aisle in his place, the aisle got entangled in the thicket, and the Satan came and untied the aisle, and the aisle ran away. And where did the aisle run? The aisle ran to the Meoras Hamachpelah, and Avram ran after it into the Meoras Hamachpelah, and he saw 2 beds made and 2 candles lit, and there were 2 beautiful tzaddikim, and Avraham smelled the beautiful aroma of the Meorah. It smelled like Gan Eden, and at that point Avram desired to be buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah, and he went to the Bnei Ches and he bought the Meoras Hamachpelah. We have a similar account in Pirkei Rabbi Elazar Perek Lamed Vav, that Avram went not at the Akedah, but rather at the time that the 3 Malachim came. So when Avram went to get the Ben Bakar, and the Ben Bakar ran away from Avram into Meoras Hamachpelah, and Avram ran after it, and he saw Adam and Chava lying there, and how goodly it smelled, and he desired the Meoras Hamachpelah as a burial spot. And he said to the Bnei Yevus, the Yevusim, he wants to purchase Meoras Hamachpelah. The Zohar also elaborates on this episode. The Zohar Kodesh in this week's Parsha says, Rabbi Glatstein Amar B'shata Da'al Avram B'ma'arasa. When Abraham went into the cave, Chayich Al begin to have a rod abasa du egla. He ran into it to run after the calf. Ben Habakar Ratz Avraham. So the account of the Zohar is more similar to the account of Pirkei Rabbi Elazar than the account of Sefer Kushiyos, which mentions that Avram ran there by the Akedah. And he runs after it, and Avraham saw what he saw. He saw what he saw. Now, what exactly that means? What exactly did he see? And he went to a field. He would pray every day, and he would have this aroma. And now he sees the aroma was emanating from the Meoras Hamachpelah, and he desired to be there. Okay, so that's the story of how Avraham Avinu was first introduced to the Meoras Hamachpelah. But as we're about to discover, the Meoras Hamachpelah has more than meets the eye. Comes Yalkut Ruveni. The Yalkut Ruveni says in the Zois HaBracha, Yalkut Ruveni is an ancient collection of midrashic material, Kabbalistic material, put together by Rabbi Avram ben Rabbi Shua Heshki, HaKoyen, Katz Sofer, and he reveals 5 couples were buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. 3 are revealed and 2 are hidden. The revealed, Abraham and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. The hidden, Adam and Chava, Moshe and Sipora. Moshe and Sipora, Ribono d'Alma Kula. Yalkut Ruveni says, Moshe and Sipora are buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. Wow. I mean, if that's not worth price of admission, Moshe and Sipora are buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. V'afal pi she'al Moshe nemar, and even though about Moshe it says Vayikbar Oisai Bagai, but it says they buried him in the valley. Zehu lamashal, that's only a parable. Kizeh pasuk machish lezeh, the following pasuk contradicts it. She'omer v'lo yadish his kurasa, nobody knows where he's buried. So did they bury him in the valley, or did they bury him, or does nobody know? The answer is Elu Elu Divrei Kim Chaim. It's all true. Emes shelo yadash kurasa, nobody knows where he's buried. No man knows where he's buried. Lo yada ishas kvuras ela malachim. Only the angels v'haraya. The proof is kimi neged tir haaretz v'shama loy savai. Hashem said, you will go opposite the land, but you will not go there yourself. V'shama loy savai. You cannot go there, but you'll be brought there in a purity when you die. The angels buried Moshe Meoras Hamachpelah. So he wasn't allowed to go there, but he was brought there. The angels buried Moshe in the Meoras Hamachpelah. What about Adam and Chava being buried there? Is Nistar? That's a tradition. Adam and Chava yesh lechein inyan Kabbalah. Now that's hard to understand because we just learned that Abraham went there and he saw them lying in their bed. But apparently they are found there in some kind of hidden realm. Says the Yalkut Ruveni, these 5 pairs are connected to 10 mystical emanations. Keser, Yesod, Tiferes, Atara, and so on and so forth. So the Yalkut Ruveni interprets the pasuk, Vayikvar Oisai Bagai, he buried him in the valley. And on the other hand, Lo Yada Ishas Kvosei, no man knows where he is buried, but Malachim knew where he was buried. And then the Malachim came and they brought him to the Meoras Hamachpelah. In fact, in a little appendage to the Sefer Yalkut Ruveni called Shikchas Leket, he brings that Moshe and Sipora are buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah, because it was told, V'yata lo yisavai al haaretz, but the Malachim will bring him there. And these Malachim, these 5 pairs are a remiss to the 10 spheros. So this is what a bombshell revelation of the Yalkut Ruveni, and amazingly, the Chida himself in the Chomas Anach, he says on the pasuk, El Meoras Sedei Hamachpelah. He brings from Rabbi Eliezer of Garmaiza, the Roikeach, in a handwritten manuscript, the words Meoras Sedei Hamachpelah, Rashi Tevos, Moshe. Meoras Sedei Hamachpelah, Rashi Tevos Moshe. And he says, what's the pshat? That Meoras Hamachpelah would be Rashi Tevos Moshe. He says, look in the Sefer HaTmuna, that Moshe and Tzipora are buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah by the Avos. So now we understand it comes out very beautiful. The Rashi Tevos Meoras Hamachpelah is Moshe. Also, he brings a gematria to Tzipora Ema Koilel. And B'Kiryas Arba is four. There are four eyes. So now, but what do you mean? There are five couples that are buried there. It should be called Kiryas Chamisha. No, four couples were buried there when they died, and Moshe and Tzipora were buried there later. So they didn't change the name of the location. So I want to tell you a little hashgacha pratis that happened to me. Last year I was at the Meoras Hamachpelah, and last year, if you remember, was in Ibriyar. And hashgacha had it that I went to Chevron on Zayin Adar. So, and I said, I can't believe it. I remember that some say Moshe Rabbeinu was buried at the Meoras Hamachpelah. And well, I'm at Moshe Rabbeinu's kever on his yard site. Now you'll ask, which Adar was it? It was Adar Aleph. So no, but we go by Adar Beis. No, we only go by Adar Beis for Megillah. But for yard site, we go by Adar Aleph. And I was really, I was nispoil. It's not like I had this in mind. But it just, I was very moved by that. Now some say that that the Arizal had a nitzutz of the neshama of Moshe. The night before, Monday evening, Zayin Adar, we were at the kever of the Arizal. So we covered all bases on Zayin Adar. Be it the Ari, Monday evening, it was Zayin Adar, or Tuesday afternoon. Now, I totally did not remember, as we're going to see, this is something I saw many, many years ago, 13 years ago, and I even have it on the Marmakoimos, that it's brought that you should dafka go to the Meoras Hamachpelah on Zayin Adar. So A, I had totally forgotten that. B, that was not my kavanah at all, going to Meoras Hamachpelah on that day, but that was a hashgacha. Further remazim, that Moshe Rabbeinu is buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. In the Sefer Mizimras Haaretz of Rab Pereg ben Rachamim Ne'im HaSefardi, like we didn't know he was Fardi, but I guess that's part of the name, HaSefardi. He brings Meoras Hamachpelah Rashi Tevos Moshe, and the Soifei Tevos is Gematria Zuhid Tzipora, and the middle letters is Gematria Al Yidei HaMalachi Elyon Bo'ula, which is a remez to the teaching of the Yalkut Roveni. And he says, after I wrote this, I was mechavein to the great Chida, who says Meoras Hamachpelah is Rashi Tevos Moshe, Gematria Tzipora Ema Koilel. And Kiryas Arba, what about the fact that there are five couples? That's Be'ez Petirasam. However, he asks the question. Let's go back to the Chida. The Chida challenges this whole teaching. He says in the Zohar HaKadosh, Parshas Vayechi, it says, Deloi Kibla Ma'arta B'nei Nash Achara. That after Yaakov was buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah, the Meoras Hamachpelah never accepted anybody else. There were no more admissions into the Meoras Hamachpelah, which is somewhat of a stira to this tradition that Moshe and Tzipora were buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah. And the Chida says, it could be you could be Marchik Ktsas. But the Sefer Mizimras Haaretz wants to say, granted, the Meoras Hamachpelah did not accept anyone, the same way it was Kiryas Arba, the Chida says, Beis Petirasam. Also, the Meoras Hamachpelah did not accept anyone be'ez petirasam. Okay, let's take this further. The Medrash tells us there. Vatama Sarah B'Kiryas Arba. Some say it had 4 names: Eshkol, Mamre, Kiryas Arba, Chevron. Why Kiryas Arba? 4 great tzaddikim live there: Aner, Eshkol, Mamre, and Avram. 4 tzaddikim were circumcised there: Avraham, Aner, Eshkol, and Mamre. Or 4 tzaddikim were buried there: Adam, Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Or 4 imais: Chava, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah. So the question that the Chidah brings from the Zohar HaKadosh is, the Zohar says, Va'ad yoima la'alma, forever and ever, like kabilas ma'arta b'nei nash achara. The cave never accepted anyone else, and it will never accept. V'nishmasin d'zakon i'avron mikamayo b'chi ma'arasa begin d'yisaron v'chomen zar d'shavku b'alma v'yachtu kamei kutchabricha. So that's one question. One question is, the Zohar says nobody else is ever given entry to the Meoras Hamachpelah. So what's the Yaakov Ruveni saying? Moshe wasn't allowed to go there, but the Malachim brought him there. What do you mean the Malachim brought him there? The Zohar says nobody will ever go there again. It won't accept anybody. Furthermore, the Sifri says in V'zois HaBracha, when Hashem told Moshe, V'sham aloi savar, it says here, V'sham aloi savar, and it says to Moshe Rabbeinu, V'sham aloi savar, Savai, Ma tamalim V'sham aloi savar, Amar Moshe. Moshe said, Im ani eini nichnas b'chai ekanas b'meis. Moshe said, God, if you don't let me enter the Holy Land alive, let me enter dead. By the way, this is a makar that there's an Indian to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. Because some poskim say you're not allowed to be buried in Eretz Yisrael if you live in Chutz Aretz. What? Vatavoyu vatatamu es artzi? You want to live in America and then come and contaminate the land when you're dead? Hashem says, I have a good idea. You ate pizza in America, so stay in America. Why are you coming? Why are you coming now that you're dead? Now that you're dead and smelly, now you want to come contaminate the land? You want to bring worms with you? Keep your worms back in America. Some poskim say you're not allowed to be buried in Eretz Yisrael if you don't live there. But this is a little bit of a makar of the Indian being buried in Eretz Yisrael, because Moshe Rabbeinu says, if I can't enter alive, at least let me enter dead. Hashem said, Loi Sava, you're not coming alive, not dead. So Hashem said, Moshe said, if I'm not coming as a melech, I'll come as a regular citizen. Hashem said, V'shama loy savar. You're not coming a king, you're not coming a regular person. You're not coming alive, you're not coming dead. So this is against the Yaakov Ruveni. The Sifri says explicitly. Moshe was told, you're not coming alive, you're not coming dead. Again, maybe you could wiggle out. Moshe wanted to come dead. What does that mean, come dead? Come dead means after a certain chilek of his neshama departed, when he's already considered mess, he would walk in himself. And Hashem said, you're not going to come there dead. Maybe the malachim will bring you. Again, that would be somewhat of a doichik. So we have 2 questions on Yaakov Ruveni. Number 1, the Zohar says there were no more admissions. It was sold out. Meoras Hamachpelah was sold out. Number 2, the Sifri says Moshe will ask to come dead, and Hashem said you can't come. Next, here's another question. The Medrash Rabbah in Eicha, in the Psichta Ois Chav Daled, brings a narrative, brings an account that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to Yirmiyah that today I'm like a person who had one child, who made a wedding for his child, and the child died in the chuppah. So Hashem tells Yirmiyah, go and call Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, wake them up from their grave. They know how to cry. So Yirmiyah said, I don't know where Moshe is buried. Hashem said, what do you mean? Stand on the edge of the Jordan, raise your voice and say, Ben Amram, get up and shepherd your people. They've been swallowed by their enemy. So Yirmiyah went to the Meoras Hamachpelah, and he went to the Avos, and he said, get up, the time came that you need to daven to Hashem. They said, why? He said, I don't know. He was embarrassed to say Hashem's destroying the Beis Hamikdash because the Avos would say, you allowed this to happen? Then Yirmiyah went, and he went to the edge of the Jordan, and he said, Ben Amram, get up! Time to daven. Moshe said, why? What's special about today? Yirmiyah said, I don't know. So Moshe went, and he went to the Malachim, who knew him, and he said to them, Malachim, why do I need to daven? They said, Ben Amram, you don't know this thing is being destroyed? And he was crying and crying until he got to the Avos. So they tore their clothing and they put their hands on their head and they cried out until the gates of the Beis Hamikdash. Question: why would Yirmiyah stand by the edge of the Yarden and say, Ben Amram, Ben Amram? Ben Amram's not buried on the edge of the Yarden. Ben Amram moved to the Meoras Hamachpelah. What's going on over here? What's Yalkut Reuveni talking about? So we have 3 questions on Yalkut Reuveni. Question number 1 is, Meoras Hamachpelah sold out. The Zohar says in Vayechi that Meoras Hamachpelah was closed. Early admission, there are no more admissions. Number 2, the Sifri says that Moshe davened to enter after he died, and Hashem said no. And question number 3, the Medrash Rabbah says that Yirmiyah went to look for Ben Amram in the Ever Layardin. He should have gone to the Meoras Hamachpelah. Now I'm going to tell you a little Gemara that all you people out there who learn Shas and you want to make a siyum on Shas, you forgot to learn this Gemara. Okay? Now if you learn this Gemara, then you can make a siyum on Shas. Actually, there's about 30 lines of Gemara that were taken out, and the Bach puts back in. It's in the Ein Yaakov. And it's a story about Moshe Rabbeinu. And Shweki made a song out of it. This way, if you didn't learn it, at least you sang Shweki's song. The story goes like this. The Bach puts in the Gemara in Sotah Daf Yudaled, with the story Amar Reb Chomer Bar Chanina, why was Moshe's kever hidden? Because it was revealed and known before HaKadosh Baruch Hu that the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed and Klal Yisrael was going to be exiled, and they're going to want to pray and go to Moshe's kever and cry and plead to Moshe and say, Moshe Rabbeinu Amoid b'tfilah ba'adenu v'oimed Moshe would stand u'mevatel as hagzeira. So the reason why God hid Moshe's kever is he knew he would be exiled, so we would all go run to Moshe's kever and say, Moshe Rabbeinu daven, and Moshe would daven u'mevatel as hagzeira, because tzaddikim are greater b'misasin more than in their life. Because we find when Bnei Yisrael were in the Midbar and they turned sour and they made the Egel, Hashem got angry and they said, Moshe, Hashem said, Moshe, leave me alone and I'll destroy them. Now there are many tzaddikim in that generation, many chasidim, Moshe, Aaron, Yeshua, Eldad, Medad, some of these Zakenim, other chacham talmidim. And Hashem only was mevatel exer because of Moshe. So Koshke, when Moshe died, the Klal Yisrael will go to Moshe Rabbeinu. By the way, the Bach puts in this Gemara. This Gemara appears in the Ein Yaakov, and the Maritz Chiyah says that go to the Ein Yaakov. There's another Maimer of Reb Chama Bar Chanina. Why Moshe Rabbeinu's kever is hidden? I don't know, says the Maharatz Chias, why this was taken out of the Gemara. It's almost like, it's very interesting that the Hashgacha had it. Not only is Moshe Rabbeinu's kever hidden, but the reason why Moshe's kever is hidden is also hidden. And maybe the reason that's hidden is because if you find out why it's hidden, you might say, well, he's really buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah, and you might go on Zayin Adar and be Mavatal all the Gezeros. So Hashem had to take it out of the Gemara and Saita also. But anyway, so this is question number 4. You ready? We have 4 questions on the Alkut Ruvaini. Question number 1 is, how could you say Moshe was buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah? The Zohar says, no one else going in, like Kabilis Ma'arta B'nei Nashachara, that we didn't accept anybody else, sold out. Number 2, Moshe davened to enter, so dead, and Hashem said no. Question number 3, Hashem told Yirmiyah, go to Moshe's kever, and Yirmiyah says, I don't know where. Hashem said, go to the Ever LeYarden. What does he go to Ever LeYarden? Go to Hebron. And question number 4, the whole reason Moshe's kever is hidden is so Bnei Yisrael won't be able to daven. What do you mean? Like, could you just go to the Meoras Hamachpelah? So this is very interesting. In the Sefer Oitzer Place HaTorah, I remember I saw this, I believe the Sefer came out 13 years ago. So he says, this is a question on Yalkut Ruvaini that Moshe is buried in the Meoras Hamachpelah, that Kaisel could have gone to Meoras Hamachpelah at the time of the Churban. So he says, well, maybe Moshe Rabbeinu only went to the Meoras Hamachpelah after the Churban, which would answer the last 2 questions. Namely, the question that the Gemara in Saita that we don't have says Yirmiyah had to go Ever LeYarden to call Moshe. Why didn't he go to the Meoras Hamachpelah? Well, Moshe wasn't there yet. It answers why Moshe's kever was not known, so at the time of the Golos, Klal Yisrael wouldn't go pray to Moshe. What do you mean Moshe's Meoras Hamachpelah? No, he wasn't there yet. Does it answer the first 2 questions? The Zohar says there are no more admissions. Well, Moshe got in, after the statute of limitations were over. There was a statute of limitations. Statute of limitations were until Churban. And he got in after that. And Moshe davened to be buried there right away. And Hashem said no, but ultimately he went there. But I like another answer better. By the way, he brings in a footnote, this would answer the question of the Chidah. Does the Chidah ask this question even? Or you could answer the question, I don't think the Chidah actually asked this question, I think maybe he asked it, but we can answer the question from the Medrash Neicha. But I think there's another way to answer this. Because if you're Medaik in the Lashon of the Medrash says, Hinichai Moshe v'halach etza malach yashahi ma'akaroi son. V'hayat soyek u'boicha ad she'yigia la'avos ha'olam. Moshe was crying continuously until he got to the avos. How did he get to the avos? So there's another Sifri. The Sifri says, Minayinat ha'omer, mechila ha'isa yoitza mikvarasa shalmai shel kvarasin shalavis. How do you know there's an underground tunnel from the grave of Moshe to the grave of the Avos? Nemar kan vayamas sham Moshe, v'nemar alan shama kavros Avram Esara ishtai. So there's some kind of commonality between Moshe and the Avos. From there we learn there's an underground cave. So the Oitzer Place HaTorah brings, maybe this is what the Alkut Ruvaini means, not that they actually buried Moshe there, but they dug some kind of underground tunnel, and in some sense it's considered as if he's buried there. Be it as it may, in the Sefer Bir Shiur Hashir Bar Yochai, from Agoinat Tzadik HaMakubal, Rabbi Shaya Asher Zelig Margolos. He brings that it is very correct to go to the Meoras Hamachpelah on Zayin Adar, and the Rabbi Shaya Asher Zelig Margolos was a big Makubal and was the chief of festivities in Meron. Himself, he personally would go to Meoras Hamachpelah on Zayin Adar. Maybe we could say a remez that Moshe has some connection to the Meoras Hamachpelah is the pasuk says that the Bnei Chayei said, Ish! Mimenu es kivroi lo yichla mimcha. We will not withhold a kever, Ish! And of course we know Moshe Rabbeinu is referred to as the Ish. The Medrash tells us that Moshe Rabbeinu is called Ish, like it says, V'ha Ish Moshe anav ma'ir. Anyway, so this is a little bit about some of the secret labyrinths of the Meoras Hamachpelah. Maybe Wednesday we'll talk about people who have made attempts to excavate and to explore the Meoras Hamachpelah over the years. Or we might talk about camels. I'm not sure yet. One of those two topics. Or maybe both. Okay, Rabbi Isai, that's what I got for you today. Have a wonderful day. Bracha v'atzlacha.
Thank you very much.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.